Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Most are afraid of unknown depths, skirting shores thinking world flat. I'm with the island girls in celebration of new religion. Nobody led me or said this way. I sailed alone on makeshift raft with wind as companion. Fate for deliverance, confidence enough to assess a new disposition. Seekers of lost paradise may seem fools to those who never sought the other worlds. Welcome to Momentary Zen with Zen Garcia. Visit www.fallenangels.tv. You're listening to Revolution Radio.
Even those privileged with instruction and advantage are lost to resolution, which connecting all dots grants one insight into revelation, unlocking all speculation, and illuminating the real secrets of why we are here, where we are going, and what we are here to do. Welcome, friends. I'm your host, Zen Garcia. This is Momentary Zen here on Revolution Radio, and I have as co-host with me this evening, Cathy Dunson. Cathy, are you there, sister?
I'm here. Do I need to brew some tea and bring it over to you?
Yeah, I'm thinking so.
Oh, and you have Rob later, too. That'll be fun.
No, yeah. Do I sound funny?
A little nasally.
Little stuffed up.
Yeah, bless your heart.
Yeah. Well, hopefully my voice will hold out and I'll be able to.
Well, I tell you what, let's just have a nice time and we'll chit-chat back and forth. I know people are listening, but we'll ignore them and we'll just talk about the books because they're so much fun.
Yeah, there's a lot to do, and I thought I would just kind of let you take over and talk about all of it, and I'll just kind of.
Sometimes I get real excited, and I go on, so we don't know.
Well, that's good. That's good. We need that this evening. But yes, we are going to be speaking about Sacred Word Publishing, which is the company we started last November, and since that time we have been publishing a lot of books. Cathy and I have been very busy putting together a lot of ancient texts, a lot of books which are no longer available in print, and making them available to you. And also, we are publishing in 14-point font, which is unique, and I believe it is going to be greatly appreciated, especially by those that have tired eyes like mine and that find the 12-point and even 10-point font to be just too narrow and too difficult to try to read through and tiresome to the mind and stressful to the eyes. And so that is one of the pluses of all the books that we are recreating and bringing forth, is that we are making it of larger font, and that's going to be a huge blessing to people, and a lot of people have already contacted us thanking us for having done so. And so let me go to this page and we'll talk about each one of these different endeavors. But do you have any news or any current events that you'd like to bring forth?
Oh, well, I was watching the interest rate going up today. Janet Yellen announced an interest rate, and there's going to increase, and this was the third time in 11 years. So it's a pretty big deal. Even a small percentage is something that can collapse the economy. I mean, it's one of those things. We're on the precipice. So watch that. The Russian ship is again off the coast of New York. They're in international waters, but that was something that was stirring a lot of interest from people, because the Russians did it. And I I, Fukushima has been in the news again. Really, some really bad stories. In Alaska, the fish are all covered with pus. I
Oh
even did a
gosh,
special
really?
email about that this morning. Yes, but there were like several stories. I use this one site called ENE News, and they were gone for several months. I was very worried about that, but they've come back and they watch very closely anything to do with the nuclear industry. A lot of stories on Fukushima. Um, and so that's a good site to go if people are interested. But there's been some really bad news coming out of there lately, and I remember hearing that they were going to have people going back to live in Fukushima. I don't see how that's even
What?
yes, I don't even see how that's conceivable, but that I'd read that somewhere too, not too long ago. Because TEPCO, it's one of those huge corporations. I think they're affiliated with GE, if I remember correctly. I have a lot of things floating around, so don't quote me. Google is your friend at times, so you can search it out. But so they control the media like we experience here with the media being controlled as well. So they make it, everything's okay. I've actually seen videos in the past where the people are trying to make like a documentary about the area, and there'll be a spokesman from TEPCO who takes them, who is proudly not wearing anything, going in and taking them. It's like, I mean, it's worse than Chernobyl. And I mean, could you imagine anyone going to Chernobyl and being not wearing any gear, or just so laissez-faire about that? But they put on this face that it's not as bad, and that's what you get in the media along the West Coast with the radiation spikes, the animal die-offs, the fish dying, the birds dying. I mean, it's apocalyptic. And Hosea, was it? I always quote them 4:3, I think it is, about the fish being taken away, the animals taken away. This is what we are seeing, and it's a daily thing. Stories of hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of fish. Fish kills were just die-offs, massive. There is no place untouched by it. The Pacific Ocean is dying. So, well, there I'm on that tirade.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, that's something it's always there. And so that was today.
So, as far as the radiation, I'm guessing it would be like the astronauts going through the Van Allen radiation belts then.
An interesting thing, I don't remember offhand where I heard this, but they had asked NASA about using whatever it was that the spacesuits were made of for people to go into Fukushima. They were told, it wouldn't work. They were,
Oh my goodness,
yeah,
that's
they
funny.
were put off that no, that's not available, it wouldn't work, and whatever. I've got to find an actual article or something. I probably just saw that cited in a video, and of course it was very interesting to me, but that was a thing. So yeah.
Yeah, if you find that article, do send it to me because I want to make a 5 minute skit on all that.
Okay.
Share it with others just for a good laugh. It's crazy. Um, okay, so I did share the link in the chat room as far as the Sacred Word Publishing and some of the books that we have recently released. Cathy just finished the Forgotten Edenic Books of Adam and Eve, which turned out really beautiful and lots of beautiful images, and the material is just fantastic. Do you have that quote about how important and relevant these
Um,
particular texts are?
I For this one, I had found one. Yeah, I just had pulled that up. Actually, one critic said of those writings, "This is, we believe, the greatest literary discovery that the world has known. Its effect upon contemporary thought in molding the judgment of the future generations is of incalculable value. The treasures of Tutankhamun's tomb were no more precious to the Egyptologists than are these literary treasures to the world of scholarship, if that was what you meant. I liked that.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And I think they're fantastic. And when I first read them, they filled in a lot of, as far as the detail of the story of the fall of humanity. Because one thing that I recognized immediately in studying the extra biblical text, which is kind of ambiguous within the canonical materials, is that Adam and Eve, when they were created, they were placed into paradise. And paradise is different from where we find ourselves now, as far as being on the earth, the Garden of Eden, where they were essentially exiled and banished, to having been cast out of paradise, and that there's a huge difference between their being created initially as bright natured, immortal, angelic type beings, and that there was a lot of difference with how their bodies were transmuted into flesh, and then when they did, and I'm actually going to be covering this tonight on the show with Rob as well, in speaking about what the fruit was and what occurred in paradise when Eve was beguiled by the serpent to eat from it, because it's the story is so deep and has a lot of layers that unless you really understand what is being conveyed, it's difficult to make sense of the completeness of the story. And so I'll share just a couple of passages from the first book of Adam and Eve, just to give people an idea as to what I'm referencing and what I will be alluding to. And I'll explain this in further detail as we go. But it says this: And the Lord said to Adam and Eve, You transgressed of your own free will until you came out of the garden in which I had placed you. Of your own free will have you transgressed through your desire for divinity, greatness, and an exalted state such as I have, so that I deprived you of the bright nature in which you then were. And I made you come out of the garden to this land rough and full of trouble. If only you had not transgressed my commandment, and had kept my law, and had not eaten of the fruit of the tree which I told you not to come near, and there were fruit trees in the garden better than that one. But the wicked Satan did not keep his faith, and had no good intent towards me, that although I had created him, he considered me to be useless and sought the Godhead for himself. For this I hurled him down from heaven, so that he could not remain in his first estate. It was he who made the tree appear pleasant in your eyes, until you ate of it, by believing his words. Thus have you transgressed my commandment, and therefore I have brought on you all these sorrows. For I am God the Creator, who, when I created my creatures, did not intend to destroy them, but after they had sorely roused my anger, I punished them with grievous plagues until they repent. But if, on the contrary, they still continue hardened in their transgression, they shall be under a curse forever. And so let me explain and apply this particular story. Notice first that it in this passage it describes how Satan had been cast out of the heavens prior to the creation and the temptation and the fall of humanity. That God tells them specifically that he had sought the Godhead and that he rebelled against them, and that was the reason why he was cast out. And the reason he tempted Eve and also um, took revenge against Adam is because he could not retaliate against Yeshua as the Son, nor the Trinity, the Holy Trinity, the Godhead. And so, therefore, he took a vengeance upon Adam and Eve and caused their fall. And he did this specifically in order for him to sire into this realm, not only causing them to come under his dominion by being cast out of paradise and being placed here upon the earth, but he also impregnated Eve with his own bloodline. And when Cain was born as the firstborn hybrid son of the devil, this was when he had um, an entire group of humans here on the earth with which to work through and which were naturally inclined in tendency and behavior towards evil. And so, as I show in the two books, The Great Contest, Book 1 and 2, the war in heaven has direct connection to the enmity between the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent, and also of the Genesis 3:15 prophecy of Christ coming into the flesh to be born of a virgin, to take on the flesh, to die on the cross, to bring forth the forgiveness of sins in rectifying the fall. And so this is a very important aspect of the story that is the deception of Adam and Eve and the fall of humanity. Kathy, you want to comment on that?
Well, I was just thinking, speaking of um, Satan and then his bloodline, because so much is revolving throughout history with the bloodlines, and then in ritual fashion, uh, Luciferians, those who follow Satan, worship in the rituals. They use the blood. There's so much. I mean, and in our cultures too that we don't even think about the blood, the lifeblood terminology, how it's used. That bloodline that comes from Satan, like you were saying, that here would be this this group who would be ready to follow him and assist him to do his bidding, unless you see that there's a turning around, turning upside, from down to right side up, like Jonathan talks
Right.
about, where you're washed by the blood of Yeshua. So
Yeah.
that was something I just was thinking about. I thought that would be interesting. I mean, that could go a whole big thing, I'm
Oh
sure.
yeah, that's huge. I mean, that whole concept is large, and when you have the eyes to see, when you're able to grasp and make sense of this, um, it unlocks the Bible in a way that it. I know when I first came to this revelation, it seemed like everything, all the wars, the
Yeah.
enmity, the David and Goliath, the Joshua going into Canaan land and fighting the giants, all of that is directly connected to this as revelation and having this understanding.
To me, it's kind of like what I was taught, grew up learning about what they teach in the mainstream churches. It's almost like a 2D, a very shallow understanding. When you understand this revelation, it becomes, full in 3D. I mean, you can see a holographic image of what the meaning of God's uh, plan for all of this as it plays out. And you guys have talked so much about God has laws that he obeys, and we
Yes.
see things people don't understand why there are all these things hidden in plain sight, like Jonathan finds and decodes. They have to play by certain rules too, and all of this makes so much sense, and it's the entire string of beginning to end, Adamic. Everything just
Right.
comes together. I wanted to say one thing. I'm not sure where I'd insert it, but I think I will do it now. When I first started reading your books and reading some of the books that we are now bringing publishing that are available in public domain and we're making better. Um, I used to look at what you had and I thought I will read them how Zen puts them together. This is wonderful, and it is. It's fantastic, and you've connected things, especially in the Firmament, which is my favorite book. Um, I know I always
I
go back
love
to
that
it,
one
and
too.
I want to read a part of it later on. Anyway,
Yes, sir.
and so I just thought, well, I'll just read it that way. And so I never would read like the first book of Adam and Eve or Cave of Treasures, and I still haven't. But now I've determined after reading Worship of the Serpent, where I found so many things. I mean, I want to read these books myself because there's so much,
Yes.
and it's confirming of what you've taught. I mean, I love the way you pull it all together, but it's such a fullness that I'm getting when I actually read them myself. Now, I will have a lot of trouble getting books out if I stop and read each one as I'm doing it. But I'm really glad I did read The Worship of the Serpent because that
Hmm.
was so amazing to me as read, and it was written in 1833, and
Right.
it read like today and throughout all the different cultures throughout history. I mean, he went back to Adam and Eve and the serpent throughout all of culture, and how, I mean, you can see it, but it was just even so much more than I'd ever imagined. And there was all these rich little nuggets of information that Reverend Bathurst Dean had included here. I mean, it was wonderful. And I can see how, I mean, you've read all these texts, and then you're able to pull it together and build this tapestry that supports and builds on everything that we read in canon. It's such a treasure that we have available to us. And it's like having Dr. Pigeon on a couple weeks ago, I think it was now.
Hmm.
you know we are told, don't read this, like the Book of Enoch, don't read
Right.
this.
Right.
Or these churches are gateways to don't read this. Like I had somebody who was telling me, no, you shouldn't read the Book of Enoch, and they went to their church's website and pulled off a document that told them why not to read it.
Oh
It
my
just,
gosh.
yeah, and I was like, okay, wow. So anyway, it's just amazing to me all that we have available, and these books now that we're publishing, we're doing our best to find wonderful, beautiful artwork to
Hmm.
include that's relevant and interesting, and then the font size, and then all of the reference material with it. So anyway, I wanted to add that we
Yeah.
want to read them too.
Yes, absolutely. I'm publishing a lot of uh, my favorite texts and books that are so very profound and so deeply important, and this is giving us the opportunity to package them and to make them available, especially to those that have read my work and that appreciate the extra biblical materials and that want to read them for themselves. Because I get people asking me all the time as to what books do I recommend, and I tell people to get the huge collections, like the Pseudepigrapha, the two books, the Charlesworth collection, which are, I think they're like 400 plus pages each, and many texts contained in them, and the Apocrypha, the Nag Hammadi Codices, the Forgotten Books of Eden. I mean, all these huge collections of extra biblical books. But then there's materials which um, nobody has access to, like the one that I just recently, the writings of Abraham, the serpent seed, the children of perdition. Um, that particular text was only available on one website, and now that website has gone down. And if I wouldn't have grabbed that text and made it available, I don't know that, it could have been forever lost. I don't know, because I've never
Wow.
seen it available anywhere else. And so, and I do try to all the texts that are my favorites, the ones that I love to read. I try to grab copies of them and save them in my own files, and I'm glad that I did that, because even like with the Targum, when I had initially seized that text a long time ago, then it no longer became available, and it was difficult for people to find, and it, that was the reason why I actually released it and published it and put it together in format, because a lot of people were interested in the text and wanted to read it, but they couldn't find it even on the internet. And when they did find the Targums, it was in incomplete form, or uh, portion. It wasn't like the full Pentateuch. And so, and the copy that I have has the Palestinian and the Aramaic interwoven together, so that you have both copies side by side in study and examination running in parallel. And so it's a beautiful text. And again, for those that don't know, the Targum is the closest that we can get to the original ancient Hebrew Torah. And the Targums predate the English versions of the Holy Scriptures, the King James and all the other, the Darby translations, the Wycliffe, all of those translations by 2,000 years. And when it comes to getting as close to the source, well, in my opinion, the more ancient the text and the closer it is to the original timeline for what you are looking into and examining and studying, the better. And those that are familiar with my work, how deeply relevant the Targums are to the whole premise of the information that I bring forth with regard to Cain being a child of the serpent, and that the beguilement of Eve, in fact, had everything to do um, with her being impregnated with Cain, the firstborn son of the devil, which is why he was the first murderer, liar, and deceiver. But I want to touch upon one other thing. I know we're about to go to break, but and then we'll move on to some of these other texts as well. But to better understand what had happened in the garden, in paradise, Eve wanting to be, because it speaks about how they wanted to be as gods, to have the knowledge of good and evil. Well, the tree that the Most High had warned them not to touch, when they did touch it, they were transformed into mortality. That's when they lost their bright nature. And that's actually the moment when their genitals appeared. And when they were transformed in the flesh form, that's also the moment that Satan, Samael, the angel of death, had opportunity to beguile Eve in a sexual way. And so her eating the fruit initially is from, it literally was some kind of fruit from some kind of tree, but it transformed them into mortality. God said that it would cause them to die. And we'll pick it up on the other side. We'll be right back, everyone.
Still want to listen? Don't have one of those fancy phones with too many buttons? Don't know what an app is? Or you don't even care? Well, we got you here at Revolution Radio. Now you can dial in 24/7 to listen to our shows. We have a number for Studio A and Studio B, and best of all, it's free. Don't forget, your carrier charges for your cell phone provider may apply, though, so check with your cell provider to make sure. So ready? Here you go. Get a pen. Here's the number. Studio A is 712-432-6958, and Studio B is 716-748-0112. Thank you very much for listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station in the world. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and FreedomSlips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
All right, welcome back, everybody. One final comment with regard to the first books of Adam and Eve, the first and second book of Adam and Eve, that when you understand, of course, that they had a bright nature, they were immortal, angelic beings before they were cast out and exiled and banished here to the earth, then you can understand how it was that they were also elevated, because there's many different texts which speak of them after having been banished and placed on the earth here, that they were helped to understand that they were now in a fallen state and that they were undergoing this transformation, which I'll read one final passage and then we'll move on to some of the other texts which we are going into. And I will be elaborating on this again, as I said, this evening when I joined Rob on Revolution Radio, which, I've got to give Rob props as well, because even though he doesn't agree with me on some of the aspects of my work, the fact that he's open and willing to listen and actually, open his mind to new information, that's really a true researcher. And so, I credit him for being willing to give me opportunity to share this material when so many are just don't want to hear it and they're completely opposed to it, even though they can't explain all of this in any other way as far as being able to understand it. But all right, final quotation. It says this: "But Adam and Eve cried for having come out of the garden, their first home. And indeed, when Adam looked at his flesh that was altered, he cried bitterly, he and Eve, over what they had done, and they walked and went gently down into the cave of treasures. And as they came to it, Adam cried over himself and said to Eve, 'Look at this cave that is to be our prison in this world, and a place of punishment. What is it compared with the garden? What is its narrowness compared with the space of the other? What is this rock by the side of those groves? What is the gloom of this cavern compared with the light of the garden? What is this overhanging ledge of rock to shelter us, compared with the mercy of the Lord that overshadowed us? What is the soil of this cave compared with the garden land? This earth strewed with stones, and that planted with delicious fruit trees?' And Adam said to Eve, 'Look at your eyes and at mine, which before beheld angels praising in heaven, and they too without ceasing. But now we do not see as we did. Our eyes have become of flesh. They cannot see like they used to see before.' Adam said again to Eve, 'What is our body today compared to what it was in former days when we lived in the garden?' After this, Adam did not want to enter the cave under the overhanging rock, nor would he ever want to enter it, but he bowed to God's orders and said to himself, 'Unless I enter the cave, I shall again be a transgressor.' And so we see how their body transform and are transmutated, and they go from an angelic bright nature where they had these extrasensory perceptions and gifts, were able to interact with the angels. They call this twin sight, being able to see the supernatural, and yet they lose this ability. It even talks about how they did not even know that they were walking. They didn't even understand how to walk. And then the whole experience of eating, drinking water, the experience of night, and the experience of sunrise the next morning, all these were horrible experiences for them because they had never been exposed and had never seen the sun or ever experienced the darkness of night. And so I love these texts, and I think that
I
they are
you,
greatly beneficial. Go ahead, Kathy.
I still remember when I first read that. I think you have it excerpted in Sons of God.
Mm,
And you were on Tribulation Now with us, and I had just read it. It brought me to tears to actually understand, to try to understand what they must have felt
right,
when they had been daily communing with God, and to come to this. I mean, it's something
right.
we couldn't possibly comprehend, and that's something that's been hidden from us, where we don't learn of these things. I mean, such an incredible thing to understand about our forefathers and mother.
Yes.
It's just an amazing thing to
And our
really
first estate, because we're
yes.
going back to paradise, those that are
And
worthy.
that's the other side, to
Yes,
know about it, to
yes,
know where we return. And that's
right.
hidden from us too. But these
That,
things aren't important to know.
right. Yeah, exactly. And because when they speak of our glorified bodies, that is the bright nature with which Adam and Eve were clothed, the light vestures which they were clothed with prior to their fall. So, anyways, we're going to mention we just published the collected works of Enoch, which I've included in this particular text. A, a, a Greek text that was just only found in 2005 that's called the account of Enoch the prophet, and also we've included within it the chapter 3 and 4 from the Book of Jubilees, which gives great detail on Enoch, his life, and how he was well respected and looked to for advice from by the kings. And then included in with the first and second books of Enoch, we also have the Midrash of Semyaza and Azazel, which is one of those texts that gives greater elaboration on the fall of the Watchers, and also the Kebra Nagas, chapter 100, which is, in my opinion, one of the most elaborate, besides the Book of Enoch, references to what happened in Genesis 6 with the sons of God mating with the daughters of Cain. And so, and again, this text is found in 14.5, and it reads really beautifully. But um, Kathy wanted to share something that I wrote about Enoch in my 10th book, The Firmament, the Vaulted Dome of the Earth. So I'll let you do that,
Some of
Kathy.
this is excerpts from Book of Enoch, and some is from the book from what you'd written. And this is Enoch coming before the throne of coming into the presence of the Creator himself. So this starts with you. He then goes on to share a very endearing and touching account of what it is like for a human to be left at the very end of heaven, moments before meeting the glory of one's Maker. The description of this encounter, as shared in the book of the Secrets of Enoch, is one of the most intensely personal and acutely moving scriptures found anywhere written in either the canonical or extra biblical gospel. Imagine trying to convey the immensity of the moment so as to capture situation and best relate what nearly indescribable the experience is. And yet, Enoch can disclose the enormity of the situation and what it is like to encounter the very creator of all things, seen and unseen, known and unknown. These passages, whether people believe that they were inspired by Enoch or not, are, in my opinion, so expressively concise and inspirationally eloquent, they had to have been roused by the Holy Spirit. They can transmit the significance of such event and what it must be like for a creature to come face to face with the author of his, her being. And because this testimony is so profound in its conveyance, I will share two different perspectives of Enoch's encounter with the Most High God so as to relate the greatest amount of detail possible. And then it begins. Then addressing me, he spoke and said, Hear, neither be afraid, O righteous Enoch, you scribe of righteousness. Approach hither and hear my voice. Go, say to the watchers of heaven, who have sent you to pray for them. You ought to pray for men, and not men for you. Wherefore have you forsaken the lofty and holy heaven, which endures forever, and have lain with women, have defiled yourselves with the daughters of men, have taken to yourselves wives, have acted like the sons of the earth, and have begotten an impious offspring, giants. You, being spiritual, holy, and possessing a life which is eternal, have polluted yourselves with women, have begotten in carnal blood, have lusted in the blood of men, and have done as those who are flesh and blood do. These, however, die and perish. Therefore have I given to them wives, that they might cohabit with them, that sons might be born of them, and that this might be transacted upon earth. But you from the beginning were made spiritual, possessing a life which is eternal, and not subject to death forever. Therefore I made not wives for you, because being spiritual, your dwelling is in heaven. Now the giants who have been born of spirit and of flesh shall be called upon earth evil spirits, and on earth shall be their habitation. Evil spirits shall proceed from their flesh, because they were created from above. From the holy watchers was their beginning and primary foundation. Evil spirits shall they be upon earth, and the spirits of the wicked shall they be called. The habitation of the spirits of heaven shall be in heaven, but upon earth shall be the habitation of terrestrial spirits who are born on earth. The spirits of the giants shall be like clouds, Nephilim, which shall oppress, corrupt, fall, content, and bruise upon earth. They shall cause lamentation. No food shall they eat, and they shall be thirsty. They shall be concealed, and shall rise up against the sons of men and against women, for they come forth during the days of slaughter and destruction. The book of Enoch, 15, 1 through 10. For those that doubt the authenticity of the book of Enoch, please consider that Yahushua himself alludes directly to Enoch 15, 3 to 7 in the above passage when he recanted that angels do not marry and in heaven are not given in marriage. For in the resurrection they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are as the angels of God in heaven. Matthew 23, 20. I would also add that the book of Enoch was spiritually significant to the Essenes of Qumran, as more copies of it were discovered among the remnant Dead Sea Scrolls than any other text. In fact, it is known that an entire version of the book of Enoch, written in Aramaic, was discovered there, but has yet to be released to the public. Considered important enough to be included in the Ethiopic canon, the Most High God must also take into account the book of Enoch important sufficiently to have preserved and restored it to the public conscience when Satan, with the aid of the sons of Cain, had almost successfully eradicated it from the public record. Okay, now here. Have courage, Enoch, do not fear, and showed me the Lord from afar, sitting on his very high throne. For what is there on the 10th heaven, since the Lord dwells there? On the 10th heaven is God. In the Hebrew tongue, he is called Aravat, Father of creation, and all the heavenly troops would come and stand on the 10 steps according to their rank, and would bow down to the Lord, and would again go to their places in joy and felicity, singing songs in the boundless light with small and tender voices, gloriously serving him. And the cherubim and seraphim standing about the throne, the six-winged and many-eyed ones, do not depart, standing before the Lord's face, doing his will, and cover his whole throne, singing with gentle voice before the Lord's face, Holy, 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 Lord ruler of Sabaoth, heavens and earth are full of your glory. When I saw all these things, those men said to me, Enoch, thus far is it commanded for us to journey with you. And those men went away from me, and thereupon I saw them not. And I remained alone at the end of the 7th heaven, and became afraid, and fell on my face, and said to myself, Woe is me! What has befallen me? And the Lord sent one of his glorious ones, the archangel, one of the 7 highest angels, named Gabriel, and he said to me, "Have courage, Enoch, do not fear. Arise before the Lord's face into eternity. Arise, come with me." And I answered him and said to myself, "My Lord, my soul is departed from me, from terror and trembling." And I called to the men who led me up to this place. On them I relied, and it is with them I go before the Lord's face. And Gabriel caught me up as a leaf caught up by the wind, and placed me before the Lord's face. And I saw the eighth heaven, which is called in the Hebrew tongue Muzaloth, changer of the seasons, of drought and of wet, and of the 12 constellations of the circle of the firmament, which are above the seventh heaven. And I saw the ninth heaven, which is called in Hebrew Kuchavim, where are the heavenly homes of the 12 constellations of the circle of the firmament. In the 10th heaven, the archangel Michael led Enoch to before the Lord's face. On the 10th heaven, which is called Aravoth, I saw the appearance of the Lord's face, like iron made to glow in fire, and brought out, emitting sparks, and it burns. Thus, in the moment of eternity, I saw the Lord's face. But the Lord's face is ineffable, marvelous, and very awful, and very, very terrible. And who am I to tell of the Lord's unspeakable being and of his very wonderful face? And I cannot tell the quantity of his many instructions and various voices. The Lord's throne is very great and not made with hands, nor the quantity of those standing round him, troops of cherubim and seraphim, nor their incessant singing, nor his immutable beauty. And who shall tell of the ineffable greatness of his glory? And I fell prone and bowed down to the Lord. And the Lord with his lips said to me, "Have courage, Enoch, do not fear. Arise and stand before my face into eternity." And the archistratege, the commander of the armies of the nations named Michael, lifted me up and led me to before the Lord's face. And the Lord said to his servants, tempting them, "Let Enoch stand before my face into eternity." And the glorious ones bowed down to the Lord and said, "Let Enoch go according to your word." And the Lord said to Michael, "Go and take Enoch from out of his earthly garments, and anoint him with my sweet ointment, and put him into the garments of my glory." And Michael did thus, as the Lord told him. He anointed me and dressed me, and the appearance of that anointment is more than the great light, and his anointment is like sweet dew, and its smell mild, shining like the sun's ray. And I looked at myself, and I was like one of his glorious ones, one of the 7 highest angels. The Book of the Secrets of Enoch, 20 through 22:9. I guess I'll stop there.
That's one of my most favorite passages, and
Yeah.
it's deeply profound. I mean, you can feel him before the presence of the Most High God, and what better words to convey that whole experience. So
And the thing is, it lasts through the ages. That is something anyone from any age can understand and feel that emotion, like you said. I mean,
right.
how does he convey it, and how is it? It's something that the Spirit of God could convey through him.
Yes, and it's so deeply profound. And Enoch is my as far as the prophets, he's my most favorite to read and to study from, because he, again, he was given all of these secrets. I just wish we had more of his books, because it speaks about him having brought to the earth 366 that the angel Proviel helped him to copy down from the very library of the Most High God, and that he was to deliver these to his sons to be passed on through his generations and his line.
Did you explain everything that's in this new collection that you have published?
Yeah, I did, as far as all the different texts, and
okay,
and again with the connections to the Watchers, and also the one thing I forgot to mention is also in this text, in this particular collection of the works of Enoch, we've included the Dead Sea Scrolls Book of Giants and also the Mandean, which is an older version of the Book of Giants as well. And both of them are fragmentary, but when you read them, it helps to also elaborate upon how Enoch was taken by the Most High God to be a testament against the Watchers and the birth of their giant children, the men of renown, and that was the whole reason for the flood of Noah's day. Because most people not studying the extra biblical text and not understanding Genesis 6, nor who the fallen angels are, the Nephilim, and also the giants, they believe that it was because of the sins of humanity that the flood was brought upon the world, but that's totally not true. And in my work, I show how even there's a text called Second Baruch, which mentions specifically in number that 409,000 giants were decimated by the flood of Noah's day, and that only Og of Bashan was allowed to survive to repopulate the giants into the line of Canaan after the flood, which that's I cover that in great detail in my new book as well. The Great Contest, Book 2, Chapter 19. All right, we'll be right back, everyone.
God is filling with adrenaline right now, whether you know it or not. Your heart's beating fast. It's getting a little harder to breathe. The neurobiological system is telling it to run, but your knees are too weak to move.
Fear is not real. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It is a product of our imagination, causing us to fear things that do not at present and may not ever exist. That is near insanity. Do not misunderstand me. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice. We are all telling ourselves a story.
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. 100% listener-supported radio. Reporting to danger. Unafraid. Right here, where information never sleeps. Revolution Radio.
Enjoy your extra big-ass fries.
You didn't give me no fries. I got an empty box.
Would you like another extra big-ass fries?
I said I didn't get any.
Thank you. Your account has been charged. Your balance is 0. Please
What?
come back when you can afford to make a purchase.
No.
I'm sorry you're having
Come
trouble.
on. My kids
sorry
are
you're
starving.
Thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we believe in freedom of ideas, freedom of speech, but above all, we believe in freedom of existence through self-reliance. This station is 100% listener-supported, and as a fundraising promotion, I have a kick-ass free gift for a $100 donation. 35,000 seeds. 25 years in the freezer. Long-term storable, 54 different varieties. So if food prices go crazy, the shit hits the fan, or if you just want to save tons of money every year by creating your own food like I do, grab our seed pack special. Just look for the banner on the homepage at freedomslips.com. Don't be a statistic. Don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution. We need, as humans, to start taking care of ourselves and not depending on the megacorps to provide unhealthy, nasty food. Included in this package is also a DVD with 900 survival and off-grid living documents and the offline home canning how to do everything website all on the DVD. So when you're growing all that food, you know how to can it, store it, preserve it, etc. with all these documents. So thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I hope that you will pick up this package package and start learning to be free. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps and freedom is one seed that needs to be planted.
What we do in life, it goes in eternity.
All right, welcome back, everybody. And I do want to quickly remind everybody that Revolution Radio is a listener-supported, commercial-free, corporate-free entity, and that we do need and rely on the donations and the support of those of you that are out there that do give monthly to us and that help us to remain a platform for truth in the manner that we do. And for those of you that can afford to, please do go to freedomslips.com, click on the donate button, and share whatever you may, and know that you are greatly appreciated. Okay, and so a couple of other books that we can make mention of and talk about. Just republished Heaven and Earth, and also know that in doing so that we are only trying to make this text available for the many people that are now into and looking and examining the flat earth cosmology, that this book also speaks about the solid structure of the firmament and has a lot of information with regard to geocentricity and how the as it is described in the book of Enoch, about how the luminaries are moving in circuit above the face of the earth, and that it is not the earth which is moving in circle around the sun as the center of our supposed solar system. And we also published Alexander Gleason's book, Is the Earth a Globe? And all of these are also both in hard and softback. And if you've never purchased or ever seen the books that we have available, they're really beautiful copies, and they're
I
very,
know. I'm like
very
the
well made.
the website Carol has been helping us. I don't know if she wants her last name out there. Carol, also known as Seajoy, has built this website for us, and it's sacredwordpublishing.net. And if you look in the store there, all the covers, it's so colorful. It's just really a beautiful array of books that we have.
Yeah, I'm very. I mean, for us also to have been able to come up and to publish all of these in such a short time, uh, that in and of itself is really amazing as well. So definitely, if you have an interest in the biblical geocentric cosmology, check out Is the Earth a Globe? The reason why we decided to republish this particular book is Kenneth Beer, one of our friends, he had shared with me a link to this particular book, and it was published in the 1800s. But it was in excess of $100 that the person was asking for, to purchase it, and you can't find it. I mean, you would be lucky to be able to pay $100 to get a copy of it, and so we've made it available for $20, and both in hard and softback form, and it's a beautiful edition, and it has a lot of new artwork and a lot of quotes and scriptures and passages which are not um, contained in the original copy, that, in my opinion, actually enhance the material and bring forth in greater elaboration the biblical narrative, which is connected to geocentricity as the biblical cosmology. And so I do recommend people check those out. And then Cathy also published a beautiful copy of the Cave of Treasures, which the cover is absolutely beautiful as well, because it has Adam and Eve coming out of the cave and looking out onto the starry night, and the North Star Polaris is there in the middle And for those that understand and know and have studied and looked into the geocentric worldview, the North Star is the very center of the vaulted dome of the Earth. And it is the one star that remains fixed and unmoving, and of which all the other heavenly luminaries are moving in rotation around. And so it signifies and is an indicator as to where the Most High God has established his heavenly temple. Because when you know and understand that, there's not all of these other worlds going on out there, and there's not all of these other Earths and other solar systems, and that the stars are not different suns, uh, that the Most High God is completely narrowly focused on our creation and on us as having been made in his image. And so it brings and restores an intimacy to our relationship with not only our creator, but also with that of the creation. And that cover on the book of the Cave of Treasures reflects, in my opinion, that particular relationship when you
You know,
understand it that way.
it's also very emotive of the way it's so dark looking out from there. Their
Right.
their
The
fear
fallen
is
state.
Eve's fear of the darkness, never having
Yes.
seen it, not knowing what this is. Why is it so dark? And how they had lived. Oh, and this was something. I'm sorry. This might be a good time to ask it. Someone had asked. There was a video today. Maybe you saw it on the email I shared with you. Speaking of the biblical cosmology, briefly, Stan Deo and Doug Hagman had an exchange where Stan Deo claimed he had some photographs of the curvature of the Earth, but during a session where he normally shows photographs, he didn't show that photograph, he claimed. Anyway, he went on to talk about how he had found the Garden of Eden. And I remember that some years back, maybe 2014, where he'd gone through this process and locating where the Garden of Eden was. And I thought I had read something that you had put out or heard from you, that you had an idea about that, or
Right. Yeah. I write about that in the flat Earth is
Utica.
key to decrypt the Book of Enoch, and that's actually the premise of the new book that I'm working on, Paradise, the Sides of the North, and the Mount of the Congregation, because it's my opinion that the original um, culture and civilization when the fallen angels came here, that they established the mother culture, mother civilization there at the North Pole, and that when they were first cast out so long ago, the climate and everything with regard to the atmosphere and the motions of the luminaries was different, so that it was not cold and frigid as it is there now. And that there's also, when you understand the physical structure of the North Pole, there is an opening that goes into the interior of the earth, and that leads down into Sheol, and that is also where Jacob's ladder is, and that there is portal, a gateway to not only the underworld, but also that is where the angels, when they come down from Polaris and from the throne room of the Most High God, that they are utilizing the North Pole to come into the world. It's also my opinion that at the end of days, when Yeshua returns in second advent, that this will be the place that he also returns from, and that he will descend down from the what is the northern regions, the North Pole, as the gateway, um, as the ladder, Jacob's ladder, the angelic ladder, and that this is also will be the place from where the supernatural armies, the release of the giants and the Nephilim and the locust army, that they will be also coming out of this hole um, at the North Pole, and to reemerge into this dimensional time space reality, and that they will do so in order to bring punishment and judgment upon those not written into the books of life, because that is part of the process of the wrath of God being poured out on the wicked, on the children of perdition.
Are did you say locusts? Are,
Yes, the locust army. Yeah.
and so they're interdimensional coming.
Yes, they are interdimensional, but they will be allowed to enter again, just like with what CERN, the portals
Ah,
and the doorways they're trying to open up.
yeah.
Well, the Most High God is going to allow them to succeed in conjuring up these devils and inviting into this world these supernatural entities. And what the powers that be don't realize, however, is that the forces that they are conjuring up will actually bring judgment upon them, and that they will be tortured by the very forces that they've been trying uh, to do ritual and invite into this world.
So I wonder what they are thinking. If they are thinking that they're just trying to bring in forces to take out humanity, or the majority of humanity, so that they can have complete rule. Are they trying to get out because the firmament is what is in place keeping them contained?
Right.
So
I think they're inviting their lost gods, that they are wanting the old pantheon, the gods and goddesses that they believe, left here so long ago, even though they've been right here with us the whole time, because they cannot get away from us. They are trapped here. They're bound here. Um, that's what they're doing, is that it's both. They want an interdimensional doorway to go there and also to have them come here. And
it's
so
Marvel
that's,
comics on steroids.
yes, exactly. Yeah, it's like Doctor Strange, the
I think you see a lot of hints of these things
most
in
certainly.
some. There's one, they had the Chitauri as what, the serpent-like, snake-like thing. Did you see that one?
Yeah,
That,
the Avengers movie, they had the
yeah,
Chitauri, yeah.
that was
Right.
amazing. That's why
Yeah,
I
it
go see
is.
those films. They have a lot of stuff that is biblical.
Oh, absolutely. And they know, just like with, them flying the true orientation of the earth on the United Nations flag, they have
Right.
a lot of occult knowledge, and they understand a lot of things which the lay people, the masses, are not privy to. And they release this information and this kind of insight and knowledge into the films, and to the movies that are made public. And so, yeah, that's a lot of occult knowledge comes out through the movies and the
And
different films.
Amos 3:7, it says, surely the Lord God will do nothing, but he revealeth his secret unto his servants, the prophets. And
Yes,
I think that's also a law for them, that, they
right.
reveal these things.
Yes, absolutely. And then there's that whole Illuminati thing, that if they tell us what they're going to do, they feel like they are absolved of, having that judgment levied upon them, um, and that they're really just they're challenging us to stop them and mocking us, laughing at
Mhm.
us in the process. And so,
It's true in so many things,
yeah,
people
yeah,
volunteering to go to war and dying, and so
right,
they're
and not
they're
understanding.
right.
Yeah,
One example.
right. So let's talk again about the worship of the serpent, which was another book that you had made and brought forth, and is
Oh,
available in both hard
one
softback.
thing, well, one thing I wanted to mention about the process, and I saw this because I looked at a lot of similar texts that were for sale on Amazon or Barnes and Noble, and what I was finding is they use the same source that I've been using in many cases, but they would leave a lot of the extraneous, other people who are doing similar publishing for sale. They would leave a lot of extraneous characters, things that were not relevant to a print copy, and they would have the smaller font. So, like you were saying, this is a far superior product that we're selling. And
I believe so.
footnotes, the same thing. They would eliminate a lot of the footnotes because the source I've been using has a lot of things that are hypertext and that might not make sense coming over into the print world. And so I'm taking the time to go back, and in the case of hundreds and hundreds of
Right.
footnotes
Right.
in Worship of the Serpent, and making sure that that lines up within the text itself. So because for serious researchers, which we know the readers of these texts are, they're
Yes.
interested in the information where things are sourced. So we're going to that effort to make a complete work that is something that is useful for, for many years, for at many levels of your how far you want to go in your research.
Right. And then again, this book, The Worship of the Serpent, how very deeply profound, because it's one of those things that has been lost as far as the ancient worship of the feathered serpent and how that ties into who these dragon-like entities are, the Anunnaki, um, the reptilian, um, these reptilian beings, the folklore, the oral traditions worldwide, which speak about these beings having descended down from the heavens because they were cast out. We don't realize that, but
There
descending down
was
from the heavens and becoming our gods.
there was one thing I found reading this text that I thought was so profound, and it goes to people who talk about reading these extra biblical texts and the criticism that you're always getting. And so let me read that. Um, it was okay. This book was written in 1833, and this is something that he put in there, not something that he researched and found. Um, Osiris and Isis then are Adam and Eve, and though in the fable which records their history, other patriarchal truths may be confounded, yet I think there can be no doubt of its involving likewise the events in paradise. I have brought forward a few points of singular coincidence, and learning and ingenuity may find more. For such is the nature of heathen mythology, that if, under the heap of fabulous rubbish, we can perceive the least sparkling of a gem of truth, we may confidently affirm that the gem is not accidental, but that the rubbish has been heaped upon it. I think that goes to the revealing,
Yes.
things made known. So yes, there are things there, and it depends on how you discern, and that is what we are called to do anyway. Be wise as serpents, gentle as doves.
Yes, absolutely. And we're to know and to understand that, because Christ said in Luke that the Pharisees have hidden the keys to the kingdom and then not even wanted to go in themselves, So I'm going to answer Link asked a question as to whether I agree with what Anthony Patch says about CERN trying to open portal and connections with Saturn. I can't really say, Link, only because I've never listened to Anthony Patch. I don't know anything about his work. I do understand that he is one of those that is very expert with regard to quantum physics and with what they are trying to do, but I can't really say other than if he is bringing forth that CERN is part of the whole process of them ritualizing and trying to open these doors to invite in these old pagan fallen angelic deities, well then most certainly I do agree. Now with regard to its connections with Saturn, I don't really know what he says about Saturn, so I really can't say with that. But I do have great respect for Anthony and also Chris and Tim Clark over there at End Times Matrix News. Um, and so, maybe at some point, sometime later, I'll actually have the time to look into his work. But I'm not familiar, so I really can't say. Um, all right, so we're almost to the next break, and we have one final segment, and really the only thing that I have to cover is the calendar, which we also have through Sacred Word Publishing, the ancient Hebrew Enochian calendar, which so many people are very greatly appreciative of. Which reminds me, next Wednesday, Chris Rock will be joining us to speak about his research on the Feast of Pentecost and how it is tied to the unfolding of 7 perfect Sabbaths. And we're going to also be talking about how Sabbath begins at dawn and ends at sunset, and how Sabbath is aligned and connected to the determination of Kadesh, which for those that have purchased the calendar and now understand how Sabbath is not unfolding one in every 7 days, but that it is in fact aligned to the phases of the moon. Um, it's one of those things that helps you to tie and connect with what's going on in creation and how the sun and the moon were established by the Most High God to be um, signs for the determination of the days, the weeks, the months, the years, and the seasons. And following the Enochian calendar and keeping up with the phases of the moon, uh, with regard to it it makes me feel like I'm connected to the everything in a very deeply profound way, that I'm part of the great mystery, the everything, the great everything. And
I
so,
think on the last virtual house church, Rob mentioned that he now agrees with you on that, that it
really,
is from sunrise to sunset. Yeah, so you might mention that tonight.
oh yeah, I'll talk with him about it. That's very cool. I've got really a lot of respect for Rob because he, like myself, is not afraid to admit if we are wrong about something and to alter and change our viewpoint, to change our entire paradigm, and um, to accept truth where we discover it. And and another thing that both of us do is we always tell people to not believe anything that we say, but to
Yeah.
go forth and prove it for yourself. That we are all students in the research and the study of truth, and nobody has all the answers. We're learning together, and we're coming to different aspects of truth in different manners, and it's through fellowship and encouragement and sharing with each other that we learn. And
We've
so,
only had the ability to research to this depth for only a few short decades. Just
right.
think of all that we've learned in this time. It's absolutely astounding.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, the amount of information that is now readily available.
How much
Uh,
longer?
yeah, because I know that the powers that be hate, absolutely hate, that the masses have easy access to all truth in the manner that we do from the very comforts of our own home. That, they were able to previously to hoard it for themselves, to control
Right.
truth, to keep certain books from being published, to
Scriptures.
keep them, yeah, to keep them out of certain languages, and to keep them out of the hands of the masses, so that they had to go to them for interpretation, and that they were the intercessors, the vicars, of Christ, and there was always somebody between us and relationship with God. And now, we can all have that personal relationship. We can all study all of the ancient texts that are everywhere, being flooded to the internet now in a way that it just has never been available previously. All right, we'll be right back.
including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it. I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
All right, welcome back, everybody, for our final segment. We want to also announce that we are making, as far as our talents, putting together books and publishing content in just really these beautiful renditions. We're making all of that available to those of you out there that have your own book ideas or that just need help in certain aspect with finalizing and publishing, and that you can go to sacredwordpublishing.net, and there is a publish with us page that shares with you all of the services which we are providing to established authors, first-time authors, people that are just wanting to, even if you just need us to edit, because we do have professional editing as well. We've got people on staff to do covers. And if you look at the books that we've published, that's also one of the wonderful things about the books that we have shared is I noticed that when people publish different texts, that a lot of times they'll have very generic covers, not even any kind of an image, but just maybe two colors or something in the title.
A stripe across.
Yeah, I mean, nothing very appealing or catchy to the eye. And that is one of the things that we also pride ourselves in, is making the cover spectacular in a way that it is appealing to the senses and catching to the eye, and is one that if you have and I'm not, please know I'm not boasting or bragging any way, but I do I do have great pride in the work that we do and the books that we are bringing out, that if you set together some of the books that we have published together with some of the names and the of other publishers, I think those that see and just see the covers and then opening the book and realizing that the font and the divisions and the formatting, the inclusion of so much beautiful artwork from very masterful individuals, that all of that makes our book stand out from a lot of the others. And I know that there are a lot of people out there that are very talented and that do incredible work. But I have been doing books for a very long time. I published my first book in 1992. Look Somewhere Different, and I'm up to my 12th, my own personal, as far as my own books, but then I'm also publishing all of this other material from other people as well. And so
Well, and
you
I
learn
know
as you go. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I know through this process the way that where we're publishing through the rate of revenue, the amount of profit that someone would make would be greater than other ways.
Oh yeah, right.
And there
Yeah,
would be more hands-on involvement. Plus,
right.
I'm looking at ways to promote more, because that's been something we haven't done much of.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we're going to do more. So now I'm going to be the primary Zen Garcia conglomerate conglomerate social media promoter extraordinaire. So that's my new job title.
I'm glad that that there is somebody that does that, because I'm not very good at that. I'm always just focused on creating
Yeah.
and doing the work and making the art, and so yeah, we need that other aspect of it. We need to let people know that this product is out there and these books are available, so that they can study and in that way learn and come to deeper, more profound relationship with the creator, and also with the understanding of the creation with regard to um, the flat earth as key to decrypt the book of Enoch, and also the firmament vaulted dome of the earth, and then the new one that I'm working on now, paradise, the sides of the north, and the mouth of the congregation, which I think is going to be just a spectacular book with you know revealing what is going on up there at the North Pole.
I'll just put these in the two that I'm working on right now: the Book of the Bee, which we love, and you refer
Yeah, I
to that
love
one
that
a
book.
lot. And then after that, I was going to do a work, and I just remember it's about Noah, and you were telling me some about that. It was very exciting. Can you share
Oh
that?
yeah, the Travels of Noah. Yeah, that's a fascinating text, and it's one that um, not a lot of people have heard about or know about. Our brother Kenneth Beer, he brought it to my attention, and in reading the text, it basically is like um, the breakdown of how all of the different cultures and civilizations that came up after the flood of Noah's day, and how his children divided the land, and Ham, Shem, and Japheth, and where the various tribes went, uh, the places that they moved to, the cultures and civilizations that they established, the worship that came up around them. I mean, all of this, and also with the onset in the wars that took place again between the giants and Joshua and Israel, the Amalekites, and David and Goliath. Everybody's familiar with that story, but they have little understanding that the wars between the giants and the children of the fallen angels has been ongoing for very, very long time, and continues even now. That they're still encountering giants in like places like Afghanistan and South America and Patagonia, and that these kind of things are ongoing. And in the scriptures, as I will be sharing and elaborating upon in this new book on paradise, there's many prophecies of the giants being released um, out of the interior of the earth, and that they had been kind of separated and confined there, but that when the prophecy of Joel 2 and that supernatural army that is going to be released at the end of days, they are those that are coming again. Everybody expects, the fallen angels to reestablish themselves and to be, that the Nephilim are returning, but the giants are as well, and they are part of that whole locust army to be released at the end of days, and that all has part to play in the wrath of God being poured out on the wicked and those not entered into the books of life.
Everything just pulls together. It's like a tapestry that, all of the threads have come together to make this glorious design.
Yeah.
And each part of it, and what has really been wonderful to see is how this rediscovery of the biblical cosmology as intended,
Yes.
without picking and choosing which parts of scripture you're going to take literally and you're not. Rob Skiba's talked about that, at length, the things that we Christians believe, but yet you're not going to believe that the world is a flat plane as God describes it, or with the sun being placed on the fourth day. I mean, there's so many things that
Right.
that just, how do you pick and choose? We lose all credibility. And the thing that's really funny to me is I never thought of it that way, but it's quite obvious, and then you can understand why there is such resistance, especially now in this day and age when the generations have been brought up to believe that they've come from slime and from nothing to something, and they accept that willingly, but they're taught that and they believe the authorities. So, it's amazing to me how this all comes. I like the tapestry idea better. I was down in the sludge.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, it's just all of it. And with the extra biblical text and what you've been writing about, the war in heaven, that's
Right.
why I was so fascinated to everything that you did. I mean, I met Rob Skiba first, I think in 2010, and his talking about, the Nephilim and something that I had never heard about was just fascinating to me. And then I got into all of L.A. Marzulli's stuff and loved it, and Tom Horn and Steve Quayle, all of this stuff. But when I found you, then, I mean, the storyline became a complete thing. And it's just been incredible for me to see it, and how things have come together the more I know. And there's still more. Just
Right.
reading each of these books is an incredible journey. So I thank you for how you've been able to organize all of this and put it together. Your books are a great starting point for anyone that wants to understand the greater story as it all goes together. It's not the Old Testament and the New Testament. It's, God's history, the completeness of it.
Right.
So I'm totally amazed.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And the one thing that people are going to get when they open themselves to the possibility of my work is that they're going to get hundreds of sources from thousands of ancient texts, many that they have never heard about themselves, that they can then go and study and read in their original context, and that I'm going to tie together all these stories and bringing the underlying truth which connects them all together and bring it forward in a way that will help people to recognize the connecting links and to make sense of how they tie together with the canonical materials. And in doing that, I think it makes the story accessible in a way that is not revealed in any great way by a lot of people's works, just because they don't read all of this other material and they don't study it that way. And I think it's necessary.
Yes, I agree with you there. And I think, like for me, reading Worship of the Serpent and how it was confirming to me what I'd already read from your work, Lucifer, Father of Cain, that someone else is right. And Dr. Pugh, Dr. Joy Pugh,
Uh-huh.
The information is there. It's frowned on. And well, you've got to wonder, the resistance where that has been generated from, because there's so much that we don't see that's behind the scenes infiltration in every organization, body, and it's in our churches. And people don't want to admit that, but it's there. And so you need to be wary, and you need to search these things out for your own self, and not shun it because someone has told you, or someone has, given it a bad name. It's a book. It's a book. Read the books.
Right, exactly. And we have to realize also that Yeshua, he quotes from many of these extra biblical texts. He references the Testament of Solomon, the Book of Enoch, and
You came
a
up
lot.
with a number at one
Yeah,
time,
yeah,
over
there's
100.
yeah, and then even the Bible itself mentions 22 texts that we no longer have access to. Um, And then others like Jasher, are, and we do have access to those, and so the ancients, the apostles, and those that were alive during the time of Christ, they were studying and reading all of these different books. There was no canon that they excluded or just limited themselves to. They were reading and studying everything. And the text back then, um, it wasn't mass quantities. People were lucky to have one or two copies of this or that scroll, and they copied them down and shared them, and that it was a great blessing to them to even gain access to one of the books and to study. Even if one person had 5 or 6 books, they were happy to study those over and over and over. It reminds me of a story. There was an individual. I recently heard the tale of somebody in one of the Eastern communist countries that they only had one page from the Bible, and I believe it was on. Um, uh, I forget the person that was eaten by the whale. Jonah. Jonah. They had the one page of the Bible, and this individual preached from that every week, every weekend. He shared and you know set up a sermon and set up a lesson and set up a story based upon that particular scripture and that particular text. And it was deeply moving to those that were able to hear him and to listen to him. And it was profound for them that they were able to have even just one page of the Bible. And yet here we have access to all of these thousands of texts and all of these extra biblical materials. And yet most people just want to ignore them, don't even want to look at them, don't even want to read them, care nothing for them.
And tell others to ignore them.
Exactly. And how deeply privileged we are. And then also, the other thing we have to realize is that the Most High God promised us a time at the end of days when the fig tree generation, even the book of Enoch says that he was writing for that remote generation in the far distant coming future. And we are that generation. And so the spirit of knowledge and truth is being poured out on all flesh. And that these collections that are coming to light, the Dead Sea Scrolls being discovered, the Nag Hammadi codices being discovered, the Thracian Chronicles coming forth,
oh yes,
all of this information being brought to light now, that is part of the blessings that the Most High God is pouring out on us as the recipients of truth. And for people to think that that it's not those books are not worthy of study, or that why would God preserve them to be found in 1947, to be found in 1945? Why would all of these, the book of Enoch, because it was almost completely eradicated, and for all these things to come to light once more, that to me shows the inspiration of God. Not that these books should be condemned and not looked into and not studied just because people don't understand them and think they contradict the Bible. In my opinion, people don't even understand their Bible, much less be able to understand these advanced teachings.
Very true. I think reading these books help you understand the scriptures much better and deepen, like I've heard you say many times before, deepen our faith. It yes. really does for me. Understanding. It's like reading for the first time about Adam and Eve being expelled and how they felt. That yes. gave me a personal connection that I'd never had. I mean, how much time do you spend learning about Adam and Eve? Not much.
Right, not much at all, yeah. And then, the testimony from Enoch being brought before the face of God that you shared with us, that to me is one of the most deeply profound passages in scriptures that, anybody can convey. I mean, it makes you feel the awe of being brought before God, and just the fear, and also the respect that he had for seeing our maker. I mean, goodness, what a profound moment and
So
experience.
sacredwordpublishing.net. Thank you to Carol
Yes,
Seajoy.
thank you, Carol.
What a great site. You can click on each of the pictures, the images for the books, and read more about them. And you'll be able to order through there as well. There's a temporary ordering through that goes to Lulu, and you'll see all of that. It's there right there. And on the very first page, you'll see information about the Flat Earth Challenge that Sacred Word Publishing has out there. And I think it's almost up to $20,000. I haven't put it all together.
Awesome.
Well, yeah, Mark had someone write to him with another 10. So
awesome.
Yeah, and I've seen other people that are very excited about it on Facebook in different posts, and I've seen people comment on the YouTube videos putting that in, and that's just in the last few days. So I'm trying to tally it, but the information is there on sacredwordpublishing.net, and let's see how that goes.
Yes. And for those that don't know what we're talking about, there is now a challenge, 8,000, well, it was at $8,250 to any person, anywhere, any organization to confirm that either the Earth is moving at over 50 miles an hour or that there is measurable curvature. That if you can come up with 2 scientific studies that confirm either or, and that can be verified by the members of our community.
Because that's scientific.
It's scientific, and we will award you the money. No problem at all. And good luck.
Yeah, and you're going to get an attorney involved, and we're going to put the money in escrow. So this is going to be a legit thing.
Totally. Yes, absolutely. Yes, and I'm in the process of doing that now, as far as speaking to figure out the best way to do that and to make it legit, so that any media or anybody that comes and that wants to take on the challenge, that they will see that the money is there, it's available.
We'll keep it updated on sacredwordpublishing.net. So you let me know, and we'll keep that all updated there.
Yep, absolutely. And give out your email address, Cathy, for those that are interested in supporting the reward with contribution. Go ahead.
Paralandra77@gmail.com, and that's P as in Paul, ERELANDRA 77@gmail.com.
Link has a really good suggestion. She says that I think you should approach the universities with this challenge, and I think that's a great idea. Absolutely a great idea.
That's interesting. Good idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Fun.
God bless all. Good night. Catch me on Rob's show later tonight, Revolution Radio at TFR.
Get some teas and good night.
Yeah, I'm going to have some now. Good night, all. God bless.